Hi friends, I have a fantastic meal plan to share with you guys today. This meal plan accomplished three most important things, at least for my family. One, it was budget friendly. All of these items that I will share with you in the meals that I made cost me less than $52, and it served my family for 7 nights. Gave me at least 32 easy servings to feed my family, and I did it all under $52. Then the second most important thing is it was healthy. It was good for the body. Who says you can't have a budget-friendly meal plan and not be tasty as well as healthy at the same time? And the third and final thing, that it was easy to prepare. Easy. And it was all prepared the weekend before the week started, so I saved myself an entire week of cooking. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'm excited to share with you my meal plan going into what I call May Crazy. May Crazy is the busiest and craziest month out of the 12-month calendar, and that's because school is ending. I have two girls, 7 and 11, and they do all the things. They do the dance, they do chorus, they do sports, everything. It takes a lot of time outside the house, especially in the evenings and our weekends. So I gave myself some grace going into the following week, and that was for me to plan out our dinners and for me to have them all made to where all I had to do was just pull it out, heat it up, and eat it. The first two recipes I'm going to share with you are recipes that actually took a few more steps than the skillet dinner or the sheet pan dinner that would be easy to cook during the week. So if you choose to do these two recipes or one of the two, I would highly suggest to make it on the weekend because they really store nicely in the refrigerator to bake later during the week, or you could freeze them as well. They make really nice servings. They provide a lot of servings, and you could actually just eat them on its own, or you can pair it with additional vegetables for the side. The first one is a baked spaghetti. I was craving that, but if you know, baked spaghetti can be really high calorie and fat. So I found a healthy, protein-packed baked spaghetti that I'm going to share with you first. And the second one is a chicken enchilada dish. I changed that one up a little bit to sort of meet the needs of our taste profiles here at the Cross House, but at the end, it turned out perfectly and it was very satisfying. Calorie, high protein baked spaghetti. Friends, you want to start off with 1 diced sweet pepper, 1 diced zucchini, and 1 diced small onion. And then I add an additional Italian seasoning and garlic powder, and then a jar, 24 ounces of any pasta sauce of your choice. You want to start the sauce first before moving on to the next step. So I sauteed an onion for about 5 minutes until it was about translucent. And then I added the pepper and the zucchini, and I sauteed that all together for about another 5 minutes until softened. And then I added these two seasonings. The recipe did not call for it, but I decided to add 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning and then 1 teaspoon of garlic powder to this dish. I made sure that all the seasonings were well blended into the vegetables. I did do a bit of pepper and salt to taste. And then that's when I wanted to add the marinara sauce, the entire jar, 24 ounces. I did put a little water in the jar and shook it up to make sure I get all the goodness out of that jar. And you want to bring this sauce to a nice simmer, mixed well, make sure it's evenly in the pan, and you want to let it just simmer for the additional time that it takes to put the rest of the recipe together. I cracked it, just a little crack, and I let it simmer for probably an additional 10 minutes. Now while I was making the sauce, I did boil up this protein spaghetti, and then I mixed that with the cottage cheese, the Parmesan cheese, and the 2 eggs, and I used the mozzarella to top the casserole. So you want to whisk together 2 eggs very well, and then you want to add 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese, Whisk very well and then set that aside. Now you want to take your cooled pasta, because you don't want to scramble your eggs, and you want to pour that egg cheese mixture into your pasta, mix well, and then set aside. You also want to measure out 1 cup of low-fat mozzarella cheese and then set that to the side as well. Spray your 9x13 casserole dish, and before you start putting this together, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You want to put half of the spaghetti at the bottom of it, and then you want to do a layer of this cottage cheese, which I blended in my Ninja to get rid of the curds to make it smoother. The recipe does call for 2 cups of ricotta cheese. I chose to use 2 cups of cottage cheese instead of the ricotta because the cottage cheese was lower in fat and it had more protein than the ricotta cheese. After you spread the ricotta cheese in as a layer, then you want to put half of the tomato sauce on top of the the cottage cheese, and then do a sprinkle of mozzarella, and then top the rest of the spaghetti or the spaghetti noodles on top. Use the rest of the cottage cheese on the spaghetti layer, and then pour the rest of the pasta sauce that you made on top of the casserole. So there's 2 layers of each item in this casserole. Then you top it with the rest of that mozzarella cheese, and I added some Parmesan cheese to this. I didn't think the little bit amount that I put on the Parmesan would change the calorie content to this too much. Add a little bit of pepper on top and some fresh parsley. I put this in the oven, covered for 30 minutes, and then once it baked for 30 minutes, then I uncovered it and I baked it for another 30 minutes. And I let it sit for about 15 minutes before cutting it up. This made 8 nice size servings, friends, and each serving was 388 calories. Wonderful. I will put this recipe in the description below. It is full of flavor, delicious, family loved it. You pair it with just a little bit of garlic toast and salad, a perfect meal. Healthy chicken enchiladas. These are your ingredients. That is 1 small onion and 3 garlic cloves chopped. I used 2 large Roma tomatoes chopped, 1 sweet pepper, and 1 jalapeno chopped. You'll need some black pepper, some thyme. The recipe calls for smoked paprika, but I don't have smoke, so I'm just using paprika, oregano, a can of refried beans, a can of tomato sauce, and I'm using canned chicken, 2 cups of canned chicken, and I'm using the flour tortillas, the low carb, and Fiesta blend low fat cheese with low fat Greek yogurt. Let's start the sauce. You want to take half of that small onion and half of those 3 garlic cloves at the bottom of the saucepan. Saute till the onions are translucent. Then you want to add 1 cup of chicken broth. I'm using chicken bouillon. And then you want to add 1 can, 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. Now you see that spice mixture right there, friends. You want to use half of that amount. And that is a half a teaspoon of dried thyme, a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, a half a teaspoon of dried oregano, and a half a teaspoon of chili powder. And I added to the recipe a half a teaspoon of cumin because I like that flavor. I mixed it well. I saved the other half of those spices for the veggie mixture. Now I'm letting that sauce saute covered on the side as I'm preparing the chicken and veggie mixture. I used the rest of that onion and garlic, sauteed it well until softened. Then I added the sweet pepper and the jalapeno as well as the diced tomatoes to the pan, sauteed for a few minutes, and then I added the canned chicken. I rinsed the canned chicken. That does come to 2 cups as the recipe required. I chose to use canned chicken because it's so affordable as well as easy. It's already cooked. Now I made sure I used the rest of the spices, mixed well, and I did 2 heavy ladles of the enchilada sauce into the chicken and veggie mixture. Now friends, the chicken is already cooked, so all you really need to do is make sure that all the ingredients are well incorporated and cooked through. spray a 9x13 casserole dish, and as you can see, I put 2 ladles of that enchilada sauce at the bottom of that casserole dish. And now I'm preparing all the enchiladas. Now, as you can see here, I used on one side some refried beans, the other side some non-fat Greek yogurt, and then I added the chicken and vegetable mixture. And I rolled them up and put it in the casserole dish with seam side down. Now, I will tell you what I did differently in this recipe than what the recipe required. The recipe required a half a can of kidney beans, a half a can of corn, and 8 corn tortillas. I chose not to use the kidney beans and not to use the corn. However, I did choose to use refried beans because that's what we prefer in our family. I did add the jalapeno, the 1 jalapeno, as well as the diced tomatoes in the veggie and chicken mixture. So those are the changes I made to fit our family's taste buds. As you can see, friends, this will make 8 pretty large tortillas. I think it depends. I chose the larger floured low carb tortillas for this recipe. It did not change the calorie content by changing from flour to corn because I used the low carb tortillas. You want to use the rest of that enchilada sauce, top it thoroughly, and then you want to add a half a cup of Mexican or the Fiesta cheese on top. Cover this, put it in a preheated oven to 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. I topped it with some fresh parsley as well as some green onions. This is mine. I did 1 enchilada, which is pretty hearty, with a side salad with the non-fat Greek yogurt. Friends, this makes 8 servings. It is so delicious. Friends, if you have been watching me for a minute or so, you've probably seen different aspects of my kitchen. But I do show this side of my kitchen quite a bit because the lighting is better. But you're wondering, what is that back there on the wall? Well, that is all things Ava and Amelia. That's my 2 girls, are 7 and 11, and that is their activity and academic area. That's just a way for my husband and I to keep track of like what's going on and where they need to be and what they need to be accomplishing for the week. So obviously during the school year, that's really like busy. And as you will notice throughout the summer, if you continue watching me, and if you haven't, please subscribe. Would love to see you in other videos, but you'll see that area cleaned up a bit. It won't be as busy. And then August will come and it'll be full-fledged chaotic again. But that is our life right now at May Crazy, is chaotic. And I shared with you those 2 recipes. They were wonderful and delicious, lots of servings. The 3 other dinners that I made during the week were really quick and very fast to put together. And I did make all of these the weekend beforehand, so I didn't have to worry about during the week. The 3rd recipe is a spinach and feta quiche. Now, I had to buy eggs because I needed 2 eggs for my spaghetti, baked spaghetti. So I had 4 eggs left, and I didn't want to not use them. I wanted to maximize all of my ingredients that I was purchasing. So I decided to do a quiche. And a lot of quiches have a lot of eggs in it, and then some quiche have a little. This one only needed 4 eggs, so it was sort of on my egg profile or tolerance level of eating. Let me share with you how I made it. Spinach and feta quiche. The ingredients you will need for this recipe is 1 1/3 cup of low-fat milk, 1 small onion chopped, 10 ounces of fresh baby spinach or 10 ounces of frozen spinach, 4 eggs, a half a cup of all-purpose flour, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, a pinch of red pepper, and a half a cup of crumbled feta cheese. And before you get started, you want to preheat the oven to 400 degrees, and you want to saute that onion in a nonstick skillet on medium until tender and translucent. Then you want to add the spinach, saute until warmed through, and set it aside. Now you want to put your egg mixture together. You want to crack 4 eggs into a large mixing bowl. Whisk very well, and then add 1 1/3 cup of fat-free milk. Once whisked well, add a half a cup of all-purpose flour. and then a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of baking powder. Mix well, and then put in a pinch of red pepper, as much or as little as you want, depending on if you enjoy heat or not to your dish. Mix well. The flour takes a moment to incorporate into the mixture, so take your time. Now you want to add the spinach and onion mixture to the egg and milk mixture. You want to do that slowly so you can temper the egg mixture, because you don't want scrambled eggs before cooking. Again, preheat the oven to 400 degrees, spray your pie pan well, a 9-inch pie pan. Pour it into the pan, and then you want to top the quiche with a half a cup of crumbled feta cheese. Now, I put it in the oven, and the recipe says it bakes for 35 minutes. My quiche was cooked at 25, so just keep an eye on it. You want to let it sit for 5 minutes, and I served it with either a salad or some sliced tomatoes and a couple pieces of garlic toast, because this quiche gives you 6 servings at only 135 calories, friends. I will put this recipe in the description below. It was delicious. You have to try it. It would not be a meal plan from my kitchen if I did not have a salad. Salads are our favorites, because my kids love raw vegetables of any kind. I particularly care for them. I like salads because they're easy and very portable. So if you're having to go get a kid from like one activity to another activity and you're having to wait for them, you could eat this in the car easily. That's why I like salads. And so I do have a salad for this meal plan as well. And I did prep it the weekend before. This was a very simple but different spin on a salad. It could be served part of it warm or at room temperature, or cold if you like it cold. And that is a spinach brown rice chicken sausage salad. This was easy, friends. I just simply cooked up rice, chopped up the chicken sausage, put it into the rice cooker, and allowed all of it to cook together. The sausage is already cooked, so it doesn't need to be cooked. It just needs to be warmed up. And I wanted the brown rice to have that sausage flavor, so I just threw all of it in the rice cooker and just let it do its thing. And then, well, while it was cooking, I already had chopped all the vegetables that I needed for the week, so all I needed to do is just put the salad together. It was nice, delicious, hearty spinach with diced up sweet peppers and cucumbers. And I topped that with the rest of the feta cheese, because let's maximize all of our ingredients that we purchased for the week. And I just put that warm sausage and rice right there on the side, or you could put it on top. And then I did a very nice like garlic herb vinaigrette, which really only consists of pretty much most things are already in your pantry, and that is lemon, olive oil, lemon juice, olive oil, vinegar, honey, garlic, chopped fresh parsley if you have it. You can even use the dried parsley, and make sure it's just mixed really well with a little bit of salt and pepper. And friends, you have a delicious herb garlic lemon vinaigrette to put on that salad and any other salad that you have going on in the week. The last dinner that I want to share with you is something that I just threw together. And the reason why I chose to make this particular dish is for a couple reasons. One is I knew I had some peppers. I was going to have peppers left over, rice left over, as well as onion and cheese. And I thought, what can I make that we're all going to like that can incorporate those items? That's when I came up with this particular dish. Let me explain how I made it. I have to say, for something off the cuff, it was my favorite for sure. And I really liked the spaghetti baked. That was definitely like on the second of my favorite dishes, but for whatever reason, I really love this Tex-Mex rice dish because it has all the flavors that I love. Here are the ingredients you will need. I chopped up 1/4 of the onion and an entire sweet pepper. You need some taco seasoned ground turkey mix, and here are some seasonings. I'll let you know what additional seasonings I put into the dish. That was a half a teaspoon of chili powder, a half a teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of cumin, and a teaspoon of this tomato chicken bouillon, diced tomatoes and chilies. Here's some Fiesta cheese to top, and then 1 cup of brown rice. Now let's get started on browning up that already tacoed, seasoned ground turkey. What a great find. Found this in the freezer department at Walmart. It was only $1.98. What a wonderful find, especially for protein. I browned that up, and once that was browned, then I added the garlic, 1 garlic clove pressed in, and all of the onion. Make sure you get that well mixed with the ground beef, and once it's translucent, which took about 5 minutes for me, that's when you want to add the sweet bell pepper to the pan. Mix well, and then allow that to cook for about 5 minutes until softened. Then add 1 cup of the brown rice to the pan. I mix that well, and then I let the brown rice brown just a little bit before adding the seasonings, which again was the chili powder, the cumin and oregano, and then the tomato chicken bouillon. You don't need to have tomato chicken bouillon. You can use whatever bouillon cubes you have on hand. I just had it in my cupboard, decided I thought I'd use it. Now you want to add that entire can of the chili and tomatoes to the dish. Mix well, and then make sure you add enough water for that brown rice if you choose to use brown rice, because brown rice for me takes longer to cook, so I put 3 cups of water in there. It took me 30 minutes to brown and get all of the rice well cooked. I put all of the rice in the bottom of a 9x13 casserole dish, spread some cheese, green onions, and parsley on the top, and then friends, when I served it up, I put Greek yogurt on the top. How much time did this meal plan take me? Now, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to accomplish all of this during the weekend. Normally, when I do a meal prep for the weekend, I try to spend no more than an hour total. Not hour at one time, but maybe 20 minutes here or 30 minutes there. But for the most part, keeping it to an hour preparation for the week ahead, meal prepping. I decided to give myself 2 hours because I wanted to cook everything, have everything made, and have it portioned out in the refrigerator so that my family can pick out what they want, heat it up, and eat it, and call it an evening. That was the gift I gave myself and really my family, because 1, they had the luxury of choosing what they wanted to eat that night, but 2, having it done and not having to worry about preparation. So I gave myself 2 hours throughout that weekend. I did not focus on 2 hours straight on one day. I actually spent one morning quickly chopping up all the vegetables, which took me about 20 minutes between washing them and then using my handy dandy chopper. I don't know if you have one of these, but you need to invest in one. This makes prepping for food and dinner so much easier and faster. So 20 minutes of just cutting up all the vegetables, portioning them out to each recipe, and then having it ready in the fridge for when I was ready to cook them during the weekend. Then I spent about 40 minutes on Saturday making those 2 recipes that I shared with you, the baked spaghetti and the enchiladas, because they took a little bit more time, meaning steps to make. I made that on Saturday, and then on Sunday, I spent another 40 minutes in the kitchen doing, actually it was a little less than 40 minutes because it took, I think I clocked myself at like 38 minutes, if you want to be exact, because I wanted to honestly see like how long this took me to do. But prepping the salad, making the sausage and the rice, putting that in the slow cooker, cooking up that delicious Mexican rice dish that I just threw together, and then making the quiche and baking the quiche. I had all of that prepared on Sunday, and I had it all portioned out and in the fridge. So that is my entire meal cooked. All the meals, 5 meals, got us through 7 days. And not every person ate the same thing every night. So we didn't have like a night where we had baked spaghetti. One kid might have had the rice. I might have had the baked spaghetti. My husband, he really liked the quiche. That was a winner. I think he ate more of the quiche than anyone else. Everyone had what they wanted, and all of it was eaten up. And we had, at the end of 7 days, we had 2 servings left that actually my husband and myself ate for dinner one night. None of us got tired of the food. We liked the fact that it was ready and ready to go, and that we had the option of picking what we wanted to eat. So friends, do yourself a favor. If you are a busy family, whether it is May Crazy or the start of a season of summer, give yourself the opportunity of planning ahead, budgeting ahead, thinking about healthy options that can be still affordable, because that is possible, and preparing it for the week ahead. So all you have to do is heat or set out, and you can sit and relax. I'm definitely gonna do this again during the summer so that I can enjoy those summer months as well with my family of just chilling out in the patio or the porch. Now this all cost me $52 for all of the ingredients to prepare these meals. That comes out to $7 a day for each dinner, which I find quite impressive with the ingredients I purchased and the healthiness that involved in those ingredients in those meals. So friends, if you are interested in more of this type of cooking, meal planning, or just inspiration as a parent that's getting their children through this busy season of life, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I'd love to see you in future videos. And it appears that YouTube thinks that you'll like these videos above. And friends, please stay safe, and most importantly, stay encouraged.